All right, so what I'm going to do now is give you an example of a standards development and implementation so you can see that the sausage making process works, but it's interesting. And the example I'm going to choose is the green button standards, which I and my partner Marty Burns at NIST had a role in developing the technical foundation for and leading the development on through to implementations. The first lesson here is that when you want to create a standard, you're not starting from scratch. There are other standards that are likely applicable. In this particular case, there were many. California had an effort with OpenADE. Zigbee had an effort with SEP2. The SIM is very important for utility information modeling. But one of the newcomers to this was the building and facility managers. They had invested lots of money in their own information models, and they didn't want to accept just what the utility said that they should do. They wanted an equal voice in the process. So what we did, including through the Smart Grid Interoperability Panel, was we convened a group to look at this and figure out how can we get to this common problem of energy usage information. With the meters, et cetera, this is the core. This is like measuring what you got, what are you using. This is where the consumers can benefit because they can take a look at what they're using and then make choices and decisions. Maybe they can invest in better equipment to get a return on investment to manage their energy better. But that information is going to be needed by all parties in the smart grid. And that was one of the reasons that we were interested in this as one of those foundational things that we needed to tackle at the very beginning. So we did the work within NASB, the North American Energy Standards Board. That was a choice that was negotiated. The utilities had some comfort working within NASB. They understood its processes. The building and facility managers, less so, but we ended up with a compromise where there was another part of this, which was a facility smart grid information model that we did in ASHRAE. So that was a standards development organization that they were more comfortable with. But between the two of these pieces, we had the core energy usage information and this other building focus piece. We were able to work out this compromise and get a standard developed. We then put it into practice by creating a more operational standard with the details of how to do communications, et cetera. When the White House was interested in this process, there was the ability to say, hey, we have a standard that will be very important to engage and empower consumers. And we can do it similar to what was called Blue Button, getting information to medical folks. We could do something similar with Green Button. Green was the choice for energy. And by working with utilities, we're able to implement that and also created additional work on standards and testing and certification. But it's not enough just to do one implementation and see kind of what will work. You really need to create an ecosystem. You want to have this information available to all consumers. That's a lot of different utilities. If you work on it utility by utility, it's going to take a very long time. So this is where you want to create some economies of scale. You want to get more folks interested. So we created the Green Button Alliance, which was to help with the testing and certification, but also just propelling this movement forward. The Green Button Alliance was founded in 2015. And they've done significant work, including working with NASB on a most recent standards version of Green Button, so we've kind of set that foundation. We've also worked with the Department of Energy on Data Guard, so Green Button Alliance and Department of Energy have a relationship there. If you look at the new meters that were mentioned during the AMI section, 36 million meters have availability of commitments for Green Button Connect My Data. And it takes a while for regulators to kind of get comfortable with things. We had to show that we were working very carefully to preserve privacy, to do things right, because this is consumers' data. And in doing so, we were able to show through some of these pilot implementations that there really was a valuable information that consumers could have. And this has attracted the attention of many of the different regulators. And so this just shows a map of many of the different states and even South Korea countries who are interested in green buttons. So this is kind of like, you start a snowball, you get it going, the regulators get interested in it. But all of this still is requiring the technical guts. And so I want to conclude this section with this slide here. The Green Button Alliance wasn't just to help propel the standard. It did a lot of hard work in order to get to the details. So I didn't have a chance to go into all of these what I call testable statements, where in essence you have to boil down the standard and make it very, very specific, kind of yes, no kinds of things that you can test. But there are a whole host of them. And this just covers some of the things that are required there. So for example, there are function blocks. So one state might choose to do certain information, other state might not require it. This enables the testing to accommodate that. But there are mandatory and optional pieces. So if they are providing information, we want that information to be in that common format. It's an XML data standard. You need to do it in certain ways that are agreed to by the community. There are also some things that are optional. So there's the ability to tailor a testing certification program around the needs of utilities and vendors working together with a testing authority such as the Green Button Alliance. So with that, this gives you just an example of how a standard comes to life through the sausage making. It can produce very fine sausage. But it does take work and effort to make sure that it gets all the way through. So with that, thank you.